Invest or pay off debt. This dichotomy is about as old as chocolate versus vanilla, or dogs versus cats. And in the words of Tony Stark,
is it too much to ask for both?
Like many issues in life, the answer is not just black and white, but rather a mix of gray. And it really depends on the circumstances and situation that surround the question. So let's say you have a mortgage. If you're following the Dave Ramsey baby steps, you should be investing 15% of your gross salary while paying off your mortgage. But if you're on baby steps 1 through 3, you're supposed to stop all retirement contributions, including the 401k contributions, and focus all of your money and efforts strictly on paying off debt. I'll get back into more of this a little bit later on in the video. But a lot of times the question that's really being asked is, if I have some extra cash flow per month, should I put it towards an investment that's going to grow in value, or should I use it to pay down any debts that I might have? So let's say I have $100. Should I put it towards an asset that will grow, like a mutual fund, or should I use it to reduce my liabilities? Net worth is assets minus liabilities. So if I put that $100 towards an asset and let it grow, my net worth is going to grow by $100. If I put that $100 towards a liability and reduce my debt, well, then I have a minus sign, which is a minus a negative 100, which also adds a plus 100 to my net worth. So whether I put that $100 towards an asset or to a liability, my net worth is growing by $100 either way. So for example, if I take that $100 and I put it towards an asset and I'm hoping that that asset's going to grow by, say, around 8%, then I'm hoping to make about $8 on that $100. And if I put that $100 towards my debt, and let's say the debt is at a 4% interest, I'm going to save that 4% or that $4 in payments. Now that 4% or that $4 is a guaranteed return, meaning that no matter what happens, I'm going to end up saving that money. Unlike the 8% investment, which may return 8%, it also may return 12%, it might return 20%, it might end up returning 2%, or it might actually end up even costing me money at the end with a negative percent. But like I said before, if I put the money towards debt, it's a guaranteed return. So in a way, paying off debt becomes an investment with a guaranteed 4% return. It really boils down to what you feel more comfortable with. Hypothetical returns on paper versus actual real savings in the form of cash in your pocket or in your savings account. And by the way, this is how I was able to pay my student loan down in 10 months while only paying like $512 or whatever in interest. I kept putting extra on the principal and taking that money that I saved that would have gone to interest and redistributed back into the actual loan so that I was able to pay it off only in 10 months. Now, I showed in my last video that when you're comparing two investments, you can't look at the returns by themselves. This is because the returns don't give you any information about how that investment actually made those returns. Was it due to excessive leverage, or because of the timing in the market, or because it just happened to be random chance or actual investment strategy, which is what we're really looking for? Or was it just because it was in the presence of a market that was doing really well and thriving? When you're looking at two or more investments that have risk or volatility, you have to adjust the returns for that risk. This is called risk-adjusted return analysis, or RAR. You do this by taking the returns of investment A for some time period and dividing it by some kind of volatility, or basically a number divided by a number. You then do the same thing with investment B. You take a look at its returns over the same time period relative to its volatility. And whichever investment, A or B, has the bigger ratio, that's the one you pick, because that will have more returns per unit risk. Now let's look back at our 8% investment versus a 4% loan example. By paying down the principal directly, we can view the 4% loan as an investment that returns 4% in gains. And the question now returns, would you rather go with an investment that has an 8% return or a 4% return? But you probably noticed that now we're right back at where we started, where we're comparing two funds based solely off of the returns without accounting for the risk. So let's do a risk-adjusted return analysis on the 8% investment and the 4% debt. The 8% return will have some volatility, so the ratio will be the returns divided by the risk. So that would be some number, in this case 8% for the returns, divided by some number for the volatility, so it's a number divided by a number equals a number. The 4% loan ratio also has returns divided by its risk. But it has guaranteed returns, meaning that it's 100% consistent every single time. If it's 4% payout, it's going to be 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%. Because there's no spread or deviation from the returns, it's going to be the returns, or 4% in this case, divided by zero volatility, or a number divided by zero. And this is where we run into a problem, because a number divided by zero is undefined mathematically. And what this means is that the math that we're trying to use to evaluate these investments can't give us any useful information. This is also why you can't compare volatile investments like mutual funds to non-volatile investments such as paying off debt apples to apples. Now, some of the advice that I've been hearing recently is that what folks will do is they would rather go ahead and invest at, say, the 8% investment as opposed to paying off a 3 or 4% low interest loan. And then what people will do is use the fact that for the last 5 to 7 years they've been having success in the market by investing as opposed to paying off their debts. And I'm not denying their success or their results. It's just that I'm more prone to thinking that the real reason why they've been having the results that they've been having has more to do with the fact that their investments have been plugged into an economy that's been on the largest upswing in the last 10 years and we've seen in our generation, as opposed to actual investing skill. Saying that you should put your money into an investment that's going to return 8%, which you don't even know it would, as opposed to paying down your low interest debt, is like saying that you should go to Vegas and when you're playing blackjack, you should double down if the dealer is going to bust. And as I probably just said that, your brain probably flipped a little bit and said, wait a minute, how can you possibly double down knowing that the dealer is going to bust? It's a timing issue, and the only way that you can know whether you actually made 8% or 9% or 10% is after you've already invested. You can't go back in time after the returns are there and reinvest somehow. And next week, I'm going to go over a lot of what I think about the market situation and a lot of the advice that's been coming out recently over the last 10 years regarding investing and paying off debt. So back to the 401k example. Well, that match is a guaranteed return, and paying off debt is also a guaranteed return. But the 401k match will usually be half or all of whatever you put in, up to say 5 or 6%, which means that you're getting a 50 to 100% return on your money as opposed to paying off 4 or 5% on your debt. And since these are two guaranteed returns, they're both non-volatile investments, which means they can be compared together. A 50% return is always going to beat out a 4% interest payoff. And for this reason, I would never completely stop contributing to the 401k even while you're paying off debt. The key to paying off debt is increasing your cash flow, which is income minus expenses, which means you're supposed to be reducing expenses and increasing your income. And putting money away in your 401k is not an expense. Instead, focus on how you can increase your income to compensate for that 6% that you're no longer taking home due to the 401k contributions. So pay off all of your low interest debts regardless of whether or not someone tells you that you can get a higher return elsewhere, because odds are the math that they're using to justify that is not valid. Don't stop contributing to the 401k, just go right up to the match, and then after you're out of debt and after you have your fully funded emergency fund, if you want to go back and add more to the 401k, have at it. And if you have a mortgage, be sure that you're investing at least 15 to 20% into some kind of retirement accounts and putting money away, and then put all the rest against the mortgage so that you can pay the house off that much earlier.